Hi guys, welcome back to A Story with Miss K. So I just finished reading this story to my upper grade kids, and I have really loved finding these books on Black History Month of just different stories I didn't know about. I don't know how I didn't know about Buffalo Soldiers. They're amazing, and they did a ton of things to help the growth of our country. So here is an awesome story by Sherry Garland. Let's go ahead and check it out. The Buffalo Soldier. Okay, here's some awesome, really neat historical notes by the author about the Buffalo Soldiers. I'm not going to read them all, but you can pause it and read it because it's so good. But one thing that it did say is during one of their earliest skirmishes with Indians, the troopers of the 10th Cavalry were dubbed Buffalo Soldiers by the Cheyenne, probably because of the similarity between the soldiers' curly hair and the curly hair on the heads of a buffalo, but also because of their tenacity and bravery, two characteristics of the buffalo long admired by the Plains Indians. The nickname soon spread to the Ninth Cavalry, then to the Black Infantry regiments. As time passed, the name would be applied to all Black regiments. What a cool name. And tenacity, look up that word. Good word to learn. Here we go. The news come on a hot day, dusty in June, 1865. Word spread like prairie fire from the big house, through the quarters, down to the bottom fields where Mama and us was chopping cotton. Old master, he looked pale as a ghost when he rode up and say, "The cruel war is over at last. You'll be my slaves no more." Sister, she shout and sing the jubilee, but Mama, she fell down on her knees and cry. "Seems like this being free man not what it cracked up to be," one day Mama up and says. "We still got no land, got no money. What we got is plenty of sweat and toil, plowing another man's field, picking another man's cotton." So I walked to New Orleans and put my X on the line, where I hear tell the U.S. Army is looking for young Negro men to serve on the western frontier. They promised to pay me $13 a month, more money than I never saw at once. Surely a man can save it up and buy a piece of land to call his own. The Army put me in a cavalry regiment, but Lordy, I never rode a horse before. From the looks of the dirt on the breeches, neither did most of the other men in the recruits. Some of them fought for the Union in the Civil War not long past, and have that tired look in their eyes. My sergeant, he's mean as a skunk and drills us through the day. Must be 100 times I hear him holler, "Troopers, you gotta train harder than the rest, 'cause all the nation is watching you." A soldier lives, works, and dies by the bugle. We get up at dawn to the sound of reveille and muster for roll call and inspection. Then we tend the horses. Those animals get to eat before we do. We got drills and more drills and work details, cutting stones, laying bricks, putting up buildings everywhere. Round 5 o'clock, we welcome the sound of retreat. Then round about 6, the call to the mess hall. It's mostly beans and pork and bread, maybe a little beef or a sweet roast and ear. We just get a little time to ourselves before the bugle's sounding "ta-too," and we all repair to the barracks, to our lumpy mattresses stuffed with hay. Of an evening, whenever I get a chance, I go to school on the post. The chaplain teaches us to read and write and tells us about American history too. I attend to the same room where the white officers' children get their learning during the day. Captain says, if I learn to read and write, maybe someday I'll get promoted to sergeant, as far as an enlisted man can get up in the line. Just imagine what old master would say if he saw me now. Maybe I'll write him a letter, let him know I'm making something of myself. Every week we escort somebody, supply wagons full of goods, wagon trains of families moving west to find their dreams, or mail coaches running to El Paso. It's most common sight to see the soldiers racing down the road alongside a coach, horses at full gallop and guns a-blazing at the bandits not far behind. When the Comanche moon is high in September, Indians come from out of nowhere, striking fast as lightning, then scattering to the wind. We go on patrols looking for their raiding parties who've left the reservation where they were put. The buffalo herds are mighty thin now, killed by buffalo runners who shot them down, took their hides, and left their carcasses to rot in the sun. 3 million killed in 2 years' time. I heard tell when I think of all the hungry Indians on the reservations who'd have hardly any meat at all. Can't blame 'em for running off now and again. Sometimes it gets powerful lonely when we're camping out under the stars. I think about Mama and all the folks back home. Wonder if it's worth the trouble staying in the army another hitch. But when I think about being in rags and hungry too, I guess it's not so bad after all. From time to time, we protect the telegraph crew and even help them set up poles and string lines. We help the railroad surveyors find their way around. One year, we covered more than 1,000 miles mapping every river and creek and spring in the desolate and rugged no man's land. We went up mountains and down canyons to places where only cactus and rattlesnake live. But it don't mind the work, for it was better than doing drills. The paymaster wagon rolls in about every 2 months in a cloud of dust, escorted by soldiers in blue. We are in the highest spirits you ever saw. Some of the men squander their pay on foolishness in the nearby town where saloons and gambling parlors burst at the seams. My friend spends his money on fancy goods from the post trade or store. A gold watch chain, a bright bow tie, or a straw hat, a plug of chewing tobacco, tins of tasty food. But I have better things to do with my hard-earned pay. I send what wages I can to Mama and save the rest to buy a piece of land where cotton and corn will grow tall. Got my eye on a pretty washerwoman named Sally who works on Suds Row, and I know she likes me too. We plan to marry in June. Can't wait to move out of the barracks, where the smell of stinky feet and dirty boots won't be missed one bit. Holidays are something special around here. No work or drills all day long. The officer wives throw a fine celebration. They deck out the main hall and set up tables of food. Soldiers have foot races, boxing, and baseball. Best of all is the regimental band. They play music so sweet and good to make your feet want to do a jig. The officers and their wives look grand in their fancy clothes and high-button shoes, dancing waltzes and quadrilles. Me and Sally know a good dance or two ourselves. Time is marching on and taking me with it, serving in forts from Kansas to Texas to Arizona, and now to this cold land of the Sioux. Had children born here, there, and in between. Spent time fighting Apache, Comanche, Kiowa, the Cheyenne, Shoshone, the Crow, Aparo, the Lakota, the Kickapoo, and the Lipan. Chased warriors like Victoro and Geronimo, and the followers of the old gray-haired Sitting Bull. Sally says she hopes my fingers freeze off so I can't sign up for 5 more years. Been in the Army for 30 years. I'm proud to say that I now wear the sergeant's stripes on my sleeves. When the Indian Wars ended back in 1890, I thought I'd seen all the fighting I would ever see. But now, here we are, getting ready to charge up San Juan Hill to help out Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders in the Spanish-American War. I promise, Sally, if I live through this, I'll leave the Army for good. And this time I mean it. Well, sir, here I am, an old man stooped and bent. That fertile valley below is where herds of buffalo once shook the ground, where the Comanche and the Kiowa once whooped and hollered wild and free, where cowboys once drove longhorns up miles and miles of trails. They're gone now, one and all, and a highway splits the hills. Yesterday, I got a letter from my grandson who was fighting in the Second World War. He said the Army wants to disband the cavalry and do away with horses for good. Now that's a shame, seeing as how a man can't talk to his Jeep on a lonely winter night. My grandson was complaining about the food, about the saddle soreness, and the loneliness, about a sergeant who's mean as a skunk. I just have to smile and nod my head. You see, once I was a soldier too. The end.